Hey y'all, I'm taking a nocturnal amble down these mean streets, uh, and I want to talk about a movie that I just watched again for the first time in maybe 15 years. I think the last time that I saw it um, might have been 2010 or might have been 2009. It was when Twilight had come out, and everybody knew who Robert Pattinson was from Twilight. And somehow I got wind of this movie that he had been in before he blew up from Twilight. Uh, this movie called How to Be, where he plays uh, what should I how should I say it? He plays this young man who's having a very difficult time dealing with life, and who's um, who's rather pitiful in many ways. He's a sad case, but also someone who it, who causes you to laugh at him because of his folly. Um, it's a movie. It's a very interesting movie. And I should say, I got this idea to watch it again because I don't really know what it was. I think it was because I'd been rewatching The Batman again um, on Netflix, and I just thought to myself, wasn't there some movie? I remember seeing Robert Pattinson in some movie where he plays some really schlubby, pitiful guy when he's really young. Um, what is that movie? And so I went through his IMDb page, found it, and watched it on Amazon Prime. Um, and this movie is just as funny as it was way back when. There's so many just hilarious moments. What are some things I can say about this movie that might make it more alluring? Um, it's Robert Pattinson playing against what we would think of as type. I mean, he is sort of angsty, so there is that. He has that element of the sort of character that he often plays. Although I guess sometimes he plays sort of suave guys too. Not suave at all in the least in this movie. He's somebody who is an aspiring musician, but can't seem to finish a song, and he's always moping, and he's always just complaining about feeling depressed and unfulfilled. And his parents are just hilariously awful in the way that they treat him, the sort of things that they say to him. I mean, it's on the border of being cruel. Some of it's over the border. Some of it's like his father says to him once, uh, Arthur, that's his name in the movie. Arthur, you're a living oxymoron. Um, and his mother also has some winners like that. Um, but they seem mostly just sort of flummoxed, but also rather disinterested in helping him. It's a very British. It has a very British, sensibility to it. That the humor does. The main character, again Arthur or Art, has two mates, as they say over there on that side of the pond, and one of them is this sort of prototype of what today might be called an incel, somebody who just, although it's not his lack of romantic success is not really what's dwelt upon. He's more what the hikikomori, if that's the right way to say it. He's somebody who just stays in his house that is paid for by his father. Doesn't have to work, and he spends all day inside playing video games or doing whatever, or playing his synthesizer keyboard. And he's got this other friend who's like this, like the prototype. Although this was 2007, 2008, so these terms, they weren't really around. The manosphere stuff wasn't really going on yet. But this guy sort of is a kind of a PUA. But he's like he's just kind of an idiot. But he struts around and does his thing and has this swagger. So those are his two only friends. He's got this girlfriend. The first scene that we meet, she's breaking up with him because she said she once thought that he was brooding and mysterious, but now she just thinks that he's kind of boring and sad. again, there's just this brutal candor with which they all speak with him. But so that kind of makes us feel sorry for the guy, and want to rally behind him. But the thing is, he's not exactly a great ally to himself, or he's not exactly, his follies are what keep you sort of laughing at him, even while you're sort of feeling bad for him. He's going around always. He's complaining about this, that, and the other thing, and how this job he volunteers at, some rec center or someplace, which just draws in either a bunch of old ladies and one Down syndrome guy. There's a scene where he's playing basketball with them really overly aggressively and ends up with a nosebleed. There's another scene where he plays a song that he hasn't finished, and I wish I could remember the lyrics to it now, but it's just a very it's a very very bad song. It's not very good. And then he just stops because it's unfinished. He hasn't gotten to that part yet. But after he finishes playing, the Down syndrome guy just puts his thumb down, gives him a thumbs down. There's lots of moments like that. So eventually, Arthur purchases this car from this shady dealer. That it's like the sports car, but it hardly ever starts. It's really hard to get. You have to just keep cranking it over and over and over again, and eventually it starts. But then it drives in this way that, in other words, it was not worth whatever amount of money he spent for it. It's fit for the scrapyard. But he's just trying to get his groove back. And he also comes across a book, a self-help book, and he's fascinated by it. And he's gotten some sum of money from somewhere. I can't remember how it was that he came into this sum of money. But he decides to blow a ton of it on getting this guy, this self-help writer who's from Canada to come over. He charges this exorbitant rate to come over and like shadow him in his life and give him counsel so that he can solve his problems. And the guy turns out to be a complete dud, of course. He's this older man who just doesn't really seem to have things together very much himself. Um, so that's basically it. That's like the universe that this all takes place in, and there's scenes where Arthur is just raging. He's just throwing this fit because nothing he tries is working out. He tries to win his girlfriend back, and she wants nothing to do with him. She's talking to this other guy in a bar. So the other guy tries to be nice to him, and invites him to come play at some venue, to bring his guitar, and then Arthur just throws his beer into his lap, and then gets slapped. So he goes out and starts raging, and he kicks the there's like a road sign. He kicks it with his foot, and it says "ow," and then he bangs his head against something, like out of frustration, and then he hurts his head. So so even when he's having these, trying to have these cathartic rages, it's everything is backfiring. Nothing is working out for him, and eventually, in the last 20 minutes or so, he comes to some kind of understanding. I mean, we really want, like, as funny as this movie is, I think it would have been a little overly gloomy, if it had just ended with him back at square one. At one point he says to the guy, "Since you've come over here, all my problems have gotten worse. And my parents hate me even more." So there's one point where I forgot about this, where he just decides to show up, to sneak into his parents' room while they're sleeping, and then he gets in bed between them and wakes them up. And it's like, "What are you doing here?" Uh, he's trying to justify it by saying, we haven't done things together as a family enough. But anyway, his parents kind of mean well, but they're also pretty. You can sort of see how he became the way that he is, because they're not. I don't know. They're not the best parents. They're not the most encouraging people. But then in a scene near the end, we see some of the ways that they grew up, and that old poem from somebody: "They fuck you up, your mom and dad. They may not mean to, but they do." It's sort of you see what shaped them, the sort of dysfunctions, if you will, that shaped them to becoming who they are. And all this sounds really sad and depressing, and I guess in a way it is, but it's also it lives right on the edge of being sad and being just hilariously, howlingly funny, like laugh out loud funny, in a very, very unique sort of way, where the laughter is cathartic, and you're laughing not so much, or I wasn't laughing so much at Arthur, as I was laughing out of identification with him, even though I didn't. I can't say that my life has been, well, for one thing, I'm even when I saw this back in 2009 or whatever, I was a lot older than him. But the identification that one feels is the identification that anyone who has ever felt just alone in the world, or like they really don't belong here, like they really don't have a place, and so forth. It's that same kind of laughter. It's the, like, you laugh I think I've said this before, maybe even recently. You laugh because if you weren't laughing, you'd be crying. But the laughter still, like the laughter it wrestles from you it's not painful at all. It's very, it's a very enjoyable laugh. It's like I say, it has a cathartic sort of element to it. But the movie ends on an upbeat note. We get the impression that maybe Arthur sort of found his way, and maybe his friends are all right, even though they seem like they've got their own kinds of problems. But it ends with a scene of them bonding and playing a song on stage that sort of sounds okay, and there's an audience out there, including some of the other people in the cast who are watching and sort of appreciating him, and sort of it ends with the sort of, yeah, maybe Arthur's going to be okay. But but most everything, but before that, before the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, is just very, very. Again, I think it's very British humor. You know, in America, we don't really laugh as much at that kind of stuff. It's harder for us to, you know, it's more we live in we live in a culture where it's like much easier to like where it's much more emphasized to put on a happy face and to be happy and not to moan and groan and you know, be cynical and stuff. Whereas I get the impression in England that, you know, you don't have to smile all the time, and like there's more of a, at least the Great Britain of 2008. Boy, that's kind of because who knows what kind of cultural identity they really have now. Well, I'm being overly dramatic there. It's probably largely the same, even though there have been some things that have happened between now and then, certainly. But anyway, I definitely recommend this movie, especially if you're somebody who, as I said, has ever felt self-loathing, has ever felt depressed, has ever felt alienated from the world. It's the sort of movie that you can watch and that understands you without being, and you can relate to what's going on without it being cloying or without it being preachy or any of those other things that you know are possible pitfalls for a movie like that. So yeah, so there you have it. I definitely recommend you check it out. Again, the title of the movie is How to Be, featuring young Robert pre-Twilight Robert Pattinson.